Imagine stepping into a world where every desire is indulged, every whim is satisfied, and every pleasure is at your fingertips. You find yourself at the heart of an endless revelry, surrounded by laughter, music, and the intoxicating pull of infinite vice, a temptation so absolute that you may risk losing yourself entirely. This is Sanguine's domain, the myriad realms of revelry, where nothing is held back and every excess is embraced. For many, the Lord of Revelry seems like a welcome escape, a prince of hedonistic joy with no strings attached. The laughter of his guests echoes across his domain, where wild carousing and intoxicating excess fill every hour. To the mortal world, Sanguine is the prince of lust and hedonism, a being who seems to exist for nothing but the pursuit of pleasure. He is the spirit of intoxication, the embodiment of indulgence, and for many, a route to escapism from the mundane. It's easy to see why some would view him as harmless, even charming. After all, who doesn't long for a life of endless fun and abandon? But what if I told you that beneath the wine-soaked euphoria there lies a far more sinister truth? After all, pain and pleasure are two sides of the same coin. Beneath the vibrant exterior of Sanguine's eternal feast lies a force far more insidious, one that thrives on manipulation and control. His revelries are not merely a call to indulge, they are a subtle trap, one that promises freedom but instead shackles the soul. Sanguine's world isn't as carefree as it seems. It's a siren's call, and once you're drawn in, escaping might become impossible. Here, in this world of ecstasy and excess, indulgence ceases to be a choice. It becomes a slow, inevitable descent into oblivion. Sanguine is known to mortals as the prince of hedonistic revelry, debauchery, and indulgence. He is the heart and soul of the party, the ultimate host, who helps his followers fulfill their deepest desires. He appears as a horned man with crimson skin, a colour that lives up to his name. In his presence, no one is ever bored, no one is ever sober for long, and every sense is overwhelmed by the sheer pleasure of the moment. From drunken brawls to lavish feasts and the pleasures of the flesh, Sanguine's parties are the epitome of hedonistic excess, known across Tamriel for being the most extravagant and wild affairs in existence. To many, Sanguine is known as a fun-loving, carefree prince, a figure who brings joy and laughter wherever he goes. Unlike his more sinister peers, he isn't known for cruelty or malicious intent. He's simply the Lord of Revelry, a jovial Daedric Prince who delights in pranks and wild celebrations. People speak of him as though he's a curiosity, someone whose presence promises nothing but laughter, freedom, and liberation from the mundane. His reputation as a more harmless figure is a testament to his ability to blend into mortal affairs, making him a more relatable and approachable deity. After all, who wouldn't want a night to remember? So when you compare Sanguine to his darker, more feared counterparts, like Molag Bal or Mehrunes Dagon, Sanguine's reputation seems almost refined in its excess. Where others rule with fear and violence, Sanguine seems like a prince you could invite into your own home, albeit one who'd encourage you to indulge and to embrace your wildest desires without guilt. In truth, we've probably all had a friend like Sanguine at some point, the one who always says, "One more drink couldn't hurt." He doesn't demand your soul in exchange for his favour. Instead, he offers freedom and escape. Yet in truth, this freedom comes at a much higher cost than anyone realises. He is, after all, the prince of lust, perversity and hedonism, and no high ever comes without its lows. Sanguine's worship varies widely across Tamriel, with each culture finding its own way to indulge in his hedonistic influence. In Cyrodiil, his devotees celebrate Carnival, a festival of excess, leaving offerings of Cyrodiilic brandy at his shrines, revellers partaking in debauchery in his name. Breton traditions include Saturalia, a holiday where Sanguine is said to have saved a mercenary during a winter storm by conjuring them a frozen steed. Across cultures, Sanguine's followers embrace indulgence without boundaries, driven by his promise of pleasure and power, whether in the force of drunken carousing, skooma-induced reveries, or darker, more forbidden acts. However, in the hidden corners of Tamriel, there are darker sects of Sanguine's worshippers, those who take his influence to grotesque extremes. These cults engage in secretive rituals that are as perverse as they are dangerous, offering sacrifices, human and otherwise, in exchange for Sanguine's favour. Among the Khajiit, Sanguine is known as Sanguine, the blood cat, one who encourages secretive blood-fueled worship, especially among vampires like the Hollowfang clan, who see him as a source of immortality. Blood flows freely in their ceremonies, pooling at the feet of statues adorned with leering faces of the Daedric Prince. In these forbidden rites, the lines between ecstasy and agony blur, as worshippers engage in acts of wanton violence and lust, all in the name of devotion. The cults are not simply places of wild celebration, they are covens of dark, twisted magic. Sanguine's name is invoked as dark pacts are made, the air thick with the scent of blood and intoxication, where sacrificial rites involve both physical offerings and the manipulation of blood magic. The symbol of Sanguine's favour is a curious one, the crimson rose. His most devoted followers adorn their skin with this symbol, gathering in secret gardens to harvest the first flowers of the season, marking each other's bodies with the rose-shaped path of pain and pleasure. In many ways, the rose is the perfect symbol of Sanguine's dual nature. Its vibrant petals represent the allure of pleasure, beauty, and indulgence. The rose, like Sanguine himself, is a promise of sweetness, of life's fleeting joys and rapturous moments. But every rose has its thorns, and here lies the darker side of Sanguine's domain, the hidden dangers of excess and the pain that lies beneath the surface of indulgence. The thorns remind us that what appears to be beautiful can just as easily be harmful, that pleasure always comes at a price. This duality is embodied by Sanguine's artifact, the Sanguine Rose. At first glance, it appears to be nothing more than a mere staff, but in the hands of a skilled wielder, it can summon a powerful Dremora, a servant of chaos and violence. The Sanguine Rose is a powerful tool, but it is also unpredictable, and the daedra it summons often prove uncontrollable. The rose tempts mortals with its beauty, but it is a fleeting one. With each use, it wilts a little more, until it shrivels up altogether. In the end, Sanguine's rose is more than a mere symbol, or even an artifact. It blooms in the hearts and souls of all who follow him, an unspoken promise of eternal indulgence, but also an ever-present reminder of the price that must be paid. Pleasure, when worshipped in its purest form, becomes a dangerous drug, and for those who seek Sanguine's blessings, it is a temptation that they may never escape. For Sanguine's followers, the pursuit of pleasure is not only a personal desire, it is a sacred duty. It is a path of excess that leads them into realms of depravity, where blood is spilled and magic is woven into every act of worship. In Sanguine's name, they seek not only freedom from restraint, but from their very humanity, surrendering their souls to a master who promises both ultimate satisfaction and ultimate damnation. Though Sanguine's joviality is undeniable, the true cost of indulgence in his realm is far darker than anyone imagines. His parties are a gilded cage, a promise of endless pleasure that echoes through the hearts of mortals who yearn to escape the constraints of their lives. But once you've entered Sanguine's world, there is no easy exit. The revelry, the laughter, the wine, it's all intoxicating, but it comes with a catch. For Sanguine, excess is a demand. You must lose yourself in the chaos, abandon all control, and give in to your basest desires. The longer you stay, the harder it becomes to leave. The line between enjoyment and madness blurs, and the longer you indulge, the more you risk losing everything. Escape becomes an impossible dream, a distant memory, and for some, it ends in death, trapped forever in the ecstasy of excess. Sanguine's followers often become ensnared in a twisted cycle of worship. He doesn't just seduce the body with pleasure, he manipulates the mind, drawing mortals deeper into his grasp. All are welcome to Sanguine's celebrations, but there is a catch. To be allowed to stay, one must indulge, and those who indulge too much may find themselves unable to stop. Sanguine is not above tricking mortals into signing their souls away, for any who drink from his cup will find themselves forever bound to him. Though these revelries may seem joyful on the surface, there is an undeniable malice hiding just underneath. Many who stay too long will lose themselves, and even those who keep their wits may be left hollow, unable to reconnect with the lives they once had. The food is too rich, the wine is too sweet, the pleasures too addictive, and they find themselves unable to readjust to the banality of everyday life. Sanguine's gift is the promise of eternal pleasure, but like all temptations, it comes at a dangerous cost. He whispers in the ears of the wary, the disillusioned, and the bored, offering a way out from the tedium of everyday life. He shows them a world of excess, liquor flowing freely, beautiful bodies pressed together, the sweet release of every indulgence. It's an intoxicating vision, one that promises freedom, excitement, and ecstasy beyond measure. But Sanguine's true nature is revealed in the very thing he offers, an unquenchable thirst that leads only to ruin. His gifts are the gateways to addiction, to spiritual decay. The more you take, the more you need, and soon the pleasures that once filled you with joy become chains, dragging you deeper into the abyss of self-destruction. The story of Martin Septim is a tragic example of how Sanguine's influence can lead to devastation. As a young man, Martin did not know he was an emperor's son, and served as an apprentice in the Mages Guild. But soon he tired of this restrictive life, and found himself drawn to the allure of Sanguine's teachings, seduced by the promise of forbidden knowledge. As Martin himself recounted, we threw ourselves into the riddles of Daedric magic. We hungered for forbidden secrets. Knowledge and power were our gods. You can guess the rest. We got in over our heads. People died. My friends died. I've put those days behind me. But the bitter wisdom that one has been a fool is not without value. What began as a search for meaning ended in death and tragedy. This stands as a lesson that in Sanguine's realm, indulgence leads not to liberation, but to a slow, suffocating descent into spiritual and personal ruin. After all, it must be remembered that Sanguine is the lord of all forms of pleasure, and that includes even its darker aspects, such as the pleasure of inflicting pain. No society indulged in this cruel vice more than the Aelids, the Heartland High Elves who ruled Cyrodiil in the days before the Empire. To the Aelids, he was known by another name, Blood Made Pleasure. Those from the kingdoms that worshipped Sanguine were known to indulge in the sadistic pleasure of inflicting pain on their needic slaves. They practiced a twisted form of mutilation known as art torture, which included debased practices such as flesh sculpting and gut gardening. One first-hand account of these vile experiments on an unwilling subject has survived the centuries, written by an Aeliad cultist who devoted his masterwork to Sanguine. Though some details have been lost in translation, the horror of this practice remains clear. It was a subject yearning for ascent to the ultimate purpose of its form. A vision of the shape and the method took me immediately, and I stilled the form. I stopped its sight and speech and stood it in the working space. I ordered the servants to stay and bear witness to a perfect example, and began the dedication rituals. And to it I sang and hummed and whispered. The cage of its heart gave assent and unfurled with no splintering, no cracking, the life's rhythm persisting. I ordered fine silver chains. Into each link I inscribed 100 words for bliss, and I wrapped the cage and trunk all around to best display the organ at work. For the Aelids, Sanguine was not just a prince of revelry, but a guide to the deepest, most depraved experiences, where pain becomes art, where pleasure was found in the torment of the body and soul. Through these dark acts, Sanguine's true nature is revealed, a prince who reflects our darkest desires, no matter how twisted or destructive they may be. In the end, Sanguine may appear as a carefree and jovial figure, a liberator who offers a life of unbridled pleasure. But his realm is far from harmless. Beneath the mask of celebration lies a darker truth, a realm where freedom is nothing more than an illusion, and pleasures, when pursued without limits, become a prison. Sanguine teaches that the pursuit of indulgence, left unchecked, leads not to fulfillment, but to an endless spiral of addiction, pain, and loss. His gifts come at a cost far greater than anyone can imagine, and once ensnared, his followers are trapped in a never-ending cycle of desire. Sanguine is the master of seduction in all its forms, drawing people into his world with promises of liberation, only to leave them broken in the wake of their excess. His revelries may seem like the ultimate escape, but they are built on the foundation of self-destruction and suffering. In the haze of a drunken stupor, one may lose sight of the price of indulgence, and when that price is paid, it's often too late to turn back. For all his allure and charm, Sanguine's true power lies in his ability to pull people into a world where control is lost, and consequences are forever blurred in the intoxicating haze of lust and excess. Because, in the end, even a night to remember may bring choices we will come to regret. Thank you for watching. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below, and please consider subscribing to the channel if you would like to see more videos on the Elder Scrolls. And until next time, wealth beyond measure.